Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a quick spin through the latest headlines in mixed martial arts. Once again, it is Gorgeous George Goes from MMA Junkie Radio with me, so let's get right into it. This past Saturday, we saw the emergence of a new UFC heavyweight contender. Jairzinho Rozenstruik picked up a big fifth-round knockout over Alistair Overeem, but it was a fight that Jairzinho was about 4 seconds away from losing, so there's a lot to discuss here. We're going to put 3 minutes on the clock. I'm going to start with you, Goes. I don't want to put controversy where it doesn't belong, but do we even agree with the stoppage?
You know, I think the stoppage, looking back, is a good thing. At the moment, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios that could have played out. We don't know. If Rozenstruik doesn't turn around and he goes forward, how many times do we see that follow-up shot not land? And maybe Overeem grabs a hold of a leg and can ride out 4 seconds. At that point, he wins the fight, right? Miragliotta, we can't really tell exactly if he's seeing the eyes glazed over, the lip, all that. Like, it all happened so quickly. I think the fight probably did need to stop, but I don't know that everybody knew that at that moment.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that one. I thought that, listen, I don't really have a problem with the stoppage per se, but the fact that Jairzinho walked away from it, you know what I mean? There wasn't that blow. Dan Miragliotta wasn't saving him from anything. There was nothing else coming. So I know he shouldn't worry about how much time is on the clock, but I didn't exactly love the stoppage. But what's done is done. We can't change the result of that now. Rozenstruik is 4-0 in the UFC with 4 knockouts. But again, this was a fight that he was kind of losing. So I want to turn to you, George. What do we really know about this guy right now? I mean, is he the real deal? Is this, as we're saying, a legitimate contender? Or was this, some kind of just wild experience to have?
It was a wild experience because, when you're 3-0 and in the UFC and you're working your way up, the true test is, can you get past a ranked opponent, like a former champion or just someone that's been a long-time contender? So this was going to answer a lot of questions. But he's down 0-4 on the judges' scorecards. And so we're thinking, especially as round 5's unfolding, that we're going to a decision. Way to go, Alistair. He still has gas left in the tank. And then all of a sudden, bam, he gets struck with a couple punches, lips get split open. Look, man, you got to give him the W. He hung in there. I got a feeling like this was a late notice fight, for one. 2, Overeem, he engaged him with some wrestling. So he kind of threw off Jairzinho a little bit, a couple leg kicks, some takedowns, and it's his first time in a 5-round fight. So he's probably worried about, how am I going to manage my gas tank across 25 minutes? If I explode in the first round, am I going to be huffing and puffing in round 2? So I think a lot of that was weighing on him. And then as the fight's unfolding, I just think that the mental blockage, the lack of experience, all that started to play out. You could see it in Jairzinho. You knew he had the power. He would throw it every once in a while, but nothing that he was able to, put anything forward towards Overeem, and push Overeem back, gain Overeem's respect or anything like that. And that's why the fight unfolded the way it did. Finally, when he knew that in round 5, hey, I'm still here, I'm still breathing. In fact, Overeem's kind of taking some deep breaths. I'm gonna let these dogs go. And you got the result that we saw on Saturday night. So, yeah, I mean, it was a really, really tough puzzle for him, but he got the job done.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it was a win. I think, if nothing less, he's something to watch. He may not be a legitimate title contender. He called out Francis Ngannou, mad respect for that. I don't know if that's the fight to make. I do want to see it at some point. Maybe Tai Tuivasa in the meantime, another baby step up the ladder. We'll see, but definitely somebody we're going to be paying attention to. All right, in one of the wildest fights you're ever going to see, Ben Rothwell was deducted a point for his second serious groin shot of the fight, but then he was able to score a TKO finish of Stefan Struve afterwards. Now, during the break for the second infraction, if you didn't get a chance to see this, Dan Miragliotta was overheard telling Stefan Struve that he would get a no contest if he didn't make it to the end of the second round. He kind of said, hey, I think you're winning. Why don't you see what happens at the end of the second round? So a lot was going on there. Look, Dan Miragliotta, a fantastic official, but did he make a mistake here? Did he overstep his bounds a little bit? I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock. We'll start with you, George. Did Dan Miragliotta mess up here?
Look, going into the fight, he was a great ref. Coming out of it, I still say he's a great ref. He made a mistake, but he made a mistake not the type that we're usually talking about, like a stoppage or anything like that. This was more like an ethical thing. He needs to direct traffic like a cop and basically say, hey, you, fighter that's been fouled, go to a neutral corner. Your corner specifically, I don't want any instructions. I don't want any of that. And corners still do it. Hey, look, they'll try to relay that information to the fighter. Sometimes it happens with a downed opponent. The fighter's a little bit foggy or whatever. We've seen that. But in this instance, he's got 5 minutes to recover. He needs to just basically be more concerned with his health. Are you okay? Do I need to bring the doctor in? You got the 5 minutes. Give him that tangible information that he needs to have so that he needs to clear the cobwebs or shake out the boys or whatever and get back in the battle. He did overstep his bounds. Unlike Dan, And I'm sure he's probably going to take a lot of flack for this, deservedly so. But I've seen this guy in action for many years. He's not a bad ref. He just made a horrible mistake.
Yeah, listen, I don't mean this to be an insult to Dan Miragliotta whatsoever. He's a fantastic official. It's just, hey, listen, when things happen, we want to learn from it. How do future officials, how do future athletes handle it? Goes, I want to ask you, what do you think should have been done differently, either from Dan Miragliotta's perspective or from Stefan Struve's perspective as well? Because, man, fighters just don't ever want to say, I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult situation. It's so hard because here we are on Monday morning and we're saying all these things. There's very few people that can do this job in sports at the highest level at those speeds. So I understand that every once in a while there are going to be mistakes, but this one in particular is kind of odd because you can almost feel it was almost like borderline coaching, and I think that's what the big problem was. So looking back, I mean, I think Dan just should have been a little bit more assertive and really laid things out. And remember, like, it's not as quick as you think it is. You actually have a little time to decompress and map out the situation.
Yeah, no question. Listen, Dan was on top of it. I just think that the part where he said, and I think you're winning, that was too much. Don't give the score at that point. That's not your job. Again, fantastic official. And by the way, fighters, don't be scared to say, I can't go. I know the crowd's booing you, but you can do it. All right, news outside of the cage in Washington, D.C. Two-time UFC title challenger Liz Carmouche released by the promotion while she was in Washington, D.C., no less, despite the fact that she was fighting for a belt in August. Initial reaction, guys, I mean, she's a veteran of the sport. She's a historical footnote in the sport, right? The first woman to ever set foot in the octagon, 4-2 in her last 6, number 5 in the world in the MMA Junkie rankings, but she's getting her walking papers. Let's put 2 minutes on the clock. Goes your initial reaction when you heard that she was gone?
It was a little heartbreaking, to be honest. The manner in which it was done, somebody that came in and did so much for the sport, for women's MMA, to find out the way she did, it just seems like that's a very grave error on the UFC's part. It's something that seems like it could be fixed rather easily, but it seems to happen over and over again. So it's difficult. You look at Liz Carmouche and the things that she's done in her career going forward. I mean, I don't know if there's that many options for her. The one that stands out for me is PFL, unless Bellator wants to do tag teams, right? Because I don't think she's going to fight one of her best friends. So not very many options out there. I think PFL is the one that makes the most sense, though.
Yeah, no, listen, you mentioned the circumstances. I mean, I guess maybe just so people understand, like the matchmakers are one section of the company, and then, athlete relations and the people out there doing PR in the community. It just, the left hand didn't talk to the right, unfortunately. Right. It was a miscommunication. It was not meant to be evil. But, all right, listen, but what's done is done. We can't make it, go away. All right, Go's kind of touched on the options there. George, give me an idea. I mean, she'll be 36 in February, so, I mean, not necessarily over the hill, but I'm not sure how many fights she wants to continue. Alima Lay McFarland, her teammate, is in Bellator. So what do you see as the best option? What's left for Liz Carmouche?
See, I would disagree with Goes. PFL is a 3-division jump because she's been fighting as the flyweight. Now you're going all the way to 55. Oof, that might be a bit much. So you know what? Hey, teammates eventually do fight when the stakes are high. You know why? Because they fight in practice. So I would say go to Bellator. They're a little bit more established there with women's MMA. Heck, if you go back to the Scott Coker era, I mean, he kind of put that on the map. Now there's always the options in Japan, one championship. We'd have to see what, if she's interested in that. But it is unfortunate. I think she's UFC caliber and should have stayed within the UFC. But what's done is done. She's gone now, and I say her home should be Bellator.
It's tough. I mean, listen, a veteran sport, as we said, but 8 straight decisions, 5-5 record, and it's the harsh reality of the sport, right? If you want to bring in new talent, if you want to have prospects moving up the ranks, unfortunately, at some point, the veterans have to step aside. But I think there's going to be better opportunities. I think Liz Carmouche still has plenty to offer the sport, and I think she'll get some opportunities. All right, let's forget the past. Let's look to the future. UFC 245 this week right here in Las Vegas. We are excited about it. It's the final UFC pay-per-view of the year. Listen, the main event, Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington, a fight that I think everybody cannot wait to see. The truth is, though, nobody cared about Colby Covington until he started talking trash, and that's just the honest-to-God truth about it. But, now he's got, like, the family of Glenn Robinson coming out and saying, listen, man, don't be talking about our deceased father to help hype your fight. So, on the one hand, I think a lot of us hate what Colby Covington has done, but on the other hand, this is one of the biggest fights of the year. So, do the ends justify the means? George, what do you think about this type of scenario, this type of promoting? 2 minutes on the clock. Go.
Man, I know how it is that when you go from one generation to the next, they're always going to push that line a little bit more. But yeah, in this case, look, Colby had already gone and accomplished what he wanted. He became an interim champion. He's got a belt. He's a contender. He's got the accolades, 15-1 overall. I think 9-1, 8-1 in the UFC. Former champs, skins on the wall. So he's got all that. He's got all that in front of him. The fight's there. He didn't need to go there, in my opinion. He's been creative with some of the other things he's been able to come up with along the way. Stick to that, man. You got the MAGA hat. The Trumps are showing up to your fight. You know what I mean? Askren unveiled the fact that they call him Marty. Play off of that or whatever. But yeah, you don't need to bring in someone who's deceased, who actually contributed a lot to the sport and to a team out there in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Leave that alone. Colby's already handled his business. A lot of his trash talking is done inside the octagon. Continue with that, Colby.
Yeah, no question. Look, I'm not sitting here trying to be the PC police. I mean, this is the fight game, right? This is dudes in their underwear in the middle of a cage fighting. So, I mean, we're going to have some, mean things said along the way. But I do believe that there is a line. But I don't know, Goes, what do you think? I mean, does this say anything about us as media or fans in the sport? I mean, that he's going, people say he's crossing the line, but yet at the same time, we're all saying, we can't wait to see this fight. I mean, nobody's going to, boycott this thing, right, because he crossed the line?
Nobody's going to boycott it. That's the problem. I mean, there's a reason why we're MMA Junkie, right? We got to get that fixed. It's a big fight. It's been built up. The manner in which he went about it, it's a little different. Fighters can go at each other. At the end of the day, that's the beauty of the sport. They get locked in a cage, and they can decide what's going to happen there. But people that are outside of the fight itself is crossing the line a little bit much.
That's a great place to put the line. I hadn't thought about that. That's right. The people that are outside the fight itself, family, that sort of thing, leave them out of it. And, of course, racism, sexism, all those things, man, those have no place. But hype the fight, man. They did a great job. The fight is going to be good. It's going to be stylish.
It's going to be awesome. I love it.
And it's going to be a grudge match. All right, let's go speed round. We're talking about UFC 245. Two incredibly dominant champs outside of that main event put their belts on the line. Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski. Amanda Nunes versus Jermaine Durandamy. We'll make this a speed round. We're going to put 1 minute on the clock. So let's start with Goes. Which of the challengers, Alexander Volkanovski or Jermaine Durandamy, has a better chance of taking home the title?
I like Volkanovski. I really think he has a better chance. I think the difference between the two fights is this. In the female fight, I feel like right away in the first, 2 minutes, we're going to know in which direction that fight's going to go. As for the other one, I feel like there's going to be a lot of mini battles between Holloway and Volkanovski, and those mini battles are going to make things compelling. I think Volkanovski can figure the puzzle out as he goes.
I like it. Look, they are intriguing fights. George, I know you probably thought you were going to get the same question, but you're not. I'm going to switch it up, even though it's a speed round. Rounding out the main card, MMA Royalty, Jose Aldo. MMA Royalty, Uriah Faber, both on the card, but they're facing young guns in Marlon Moraes and Peter Yan, respectively. No surprise, but the old dogs are the underdogs. Which of those old dogs has a better chance of turning back the clock?
Jose Aldo. I feel like the only thing we're worried about is his weight cut, and he hasn't looked good in some of the pics that we've been seeing online. But if he can get there, rehydrate, I mean, he's still a beast with one hell of a striking game, really, really good tight defense, lots of experience in big fights, so I'd go with him.
I like it. Weight cut is a little bit scary, man. Some of those pictures, can't wait to see him in person this week. So it is UFC 245 this weekend. Of course, MMA Junkie is going to have full coverage. And then we get to the end of the year, big finish for Bellator, PFL season final, much more. We'll be talking about it all on Spinning Back Clique.